Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening.
4, 3, 2, and 1!
3 companies make a blockbuster debut on Dalal Street. Vishal Megamart, MobiKwik, Sai Life Sciences gained between 40 to 90% on their trading debut. MobiKwik nearly doubles from its IPO price, becoming the 6th best listing of the year. December is turning out to be a record-breaking year for the primary markets. 15 companies have collectively raised a whopping 24,950 crore rupees so far this month. 8 more IPOs are on track to hit the street before the month ends, aiming to raise an additional 6,300 crore rupees. The Indian rupee hits a fresh record low as the dollar strengthens ahead of the US Fed decision. A whopping 331% increase in gold imports adds to the pressure. The rupee is now just 5 paise away from the 85 mark against the dollar. The government is considering the steel industry's request to raise import duty to as much as 25%. Sources say the Director General of Trade Remedies is yet to draw up a plan for the Finance Ministry's approval, but assure that the interest of steel producers and consumers will be balanced. Vehicle registrations slide 19% year-on-year in the first half of December as per data available on the government's Vahan portal. Two-wheelers with a 24% slump in registrations are the worst hit. Electric and CNG categories provide some silver lining. Two of Japan's biggest car makers and longtime rivals Honda and Nissan explore a merger. Talks are underway over a potential deal. Both companies are struggling with the shift to electric vehicles, and a bigger entity can compete with larger rivals is the hope. The Supreme Court settles a 15-year-old dispute. Rules that coconut oil sold in small packages will be classified as edible oil and subject to 5% GST gives relief to coconut hair oil sellers like Marico and Bajaj Consumer. The Excise Department was batting for coconut oil in small packages to be classified as hair oil, which attracts an 18% GST. India's tourism and hospitality industry can create 61 lakh new jobs by 2034, with spending set to more than double, according to a report by industry bodies CII and EY. Industry calls on the government to form a task force to standardize skills and training. Uproar in Parliament as opposition protests. Home Minister Amit Shah's remarks on Ambedkar, calls for his resignation. The Prime Minister hits back, accusing the Congress of disrespecting Ambedkar. Arvind Kejriwal promises free healthcare for every Delhi resident above the age of 60, says the AAP government will pick up the tab irrespective of whether the treatment is availed at a private or a government hospital. Adds party workers will go door to door to register senior citizens for the Sanjeevani scheme. Indian spinner Ravichandran Ashwin retires from international cricket with immediate effect after the third test against Australia ends in a draw. With 537 test wickets, Ashwin is India's second highest wicket taker after Anil Kumble. Well, let's head straight to the day's market action. Dalal Street extended its losses with the Nifty ending at a 3-week low. However, it managed to hold levels above Friday's low of 24,181. Mid-caps falling in line with the blue chips today. The Sensex down 500 points. The Nifty Bank lost about 700 points today as well. So that is the market snapshot for you. Now, the US Federal Reserve's rate-setting committee will announce its policy decision later tonight. The street is expecting the Fed to lower borrowing costs by 25 basis points, delivering a hat-trick of rate cuts. However, the markets will keep a close watch on the Fed's commentary on the frequency of future rate cuts. This would be the last Fed policy decision before Donald Trump is sworn in as the president next month. Now, remember, you can catch the live coverage on CNBC TV 18 live from the New York Stock Exchange and Capitol Hill starting 11 p.m. tonight. So stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. On to the other big story tonight. The Indian rupee has declined further against the US dollar, hitting another record low. Now, the rupee is just 5 paise away from the 85 mark against the greenback. Bond prices also declined in trade ahead of the US Fed decision tonight. That is the dollar rupee for you, 5 paise short of the 85 mark. Lata joins us now with more on the money market action. The RBI has been intervening ostensibly in the market, Lata, but what are we talking about now as the next levels?
Yes, slipped 5 pies from 84.90 where it closed on Tuesday to 84.95.96. Of course, relentless buying of dollars by FPIs who are selling shares and repatriating the money back. Actually, the flow, according to dealers, was perhaps even more yesterday. But yesterday, the RBI allowed the rupee to go up to 84.94 and then made it end at 84.90. So today, till the end at 3:30, it was a guessing game. Will they pull it back? But no, they allowed it to end at 84.95.96. But really, left to itself, it would have crossed the 85 mark quite a few days back. The Reserve Bank has been intervening heavily. The sentiment on the rupee has also worsened because of the higher than expected trade deficit that we got for the month of November. Goods deficit alone is, unexpected, an all-time high of nearly $38 billion. And if you add the services surplus, it is still a massive $20 billion of monthly deficit. That gives the feeling that, this won't go away. Of course, there's a one-off big gold purchase. It may be one-off. It may be something which, investors are going to regularly do because of asset allocation, asset diversification. But if the deficit were to be, continue to remain high, then there is going to be further pressure on the rupee. So that has also hurt sentiment. That could explain why the Reserve Bank let go. The other big event, of course, the FOMC event. And if they were to signal fewer rate hikes next year, that will mean further strengthening of the dollar, and that can have impact on the rupee. Most people are expecting 85, tomorrow. It should have come a few days back. It's expected round the corner, and probably 85.50 by the time we get to next quarter.
Lata, many thanks. Now, from the rupee to the big surge in gold imports that Lata was alluding to. For the month of November, India's overall imports and trade deficit have touched a record high. In fact, gold prices actually fell on a monthly basis in November, which means the increase in imports was due to higher volumes. Manisha standing by with more on the yellow fever. Manisha, this could be a worry now for the government.
Record imports for the month of November. Also, when you look at the current financial year from April to November, it has been a 49% of a jump as compared to previous year. So, well, yes, there's a problem with trade deficit, and that also has impacted Indian rupee, and that would make imports costlier going forward. So it really seems to be turning into a cycle here. But I want to take you through on what really we do in sense of November when it comes to imports. And well, yes, it is a record. When you look at all of those previous years, it has been a double-digit tons in sense of gold import. But for the month of November in 2024, we've seen 173 tons, and this is the Ministry of Commerce data there. I also want to take you through last many years on the kind of imports that we've done. Let me remind you that 2020 was a COVID year, is the reason you're looking at a smaller number. 21 was a vengeance buying, and then the 2 years after that, we've seen in the tune of 700s there. And this year, 800 ton plus kind of imports is what we are looking at. I also want to take you through on the reasons why we've seen such strong gold imports. Well, one, it is festival season. Always the last quarter of calendar year does see higher imports. And then also there are 48 lakh weddings this time around until mid of Jan. That import seems to be happening. There's strong investment demand also. Remember, gold has given you 30% of returns in this year itself. So portfolio diversification has been on the higher side. Markets also have reacted to import duty cut from 15 to 6%. And that led to a lot of buying into gold. Also, remember, a lot of unofficial and smuggled gold used to come into India to the tune of 150 to 200 tons. That also has found its way via the white channel. So those numbers also are now reflecting within this number. The other thing is about hallmark jewelry. Remember, you have many IPOs coming in. More corporates are now getting into jewelry. There's more credibility, transparency here. So that also has led to more jewelry buying into the markets there. But when you look at the overall numbers right now, there's a bit of a descent when it comes from the industry. So while the Ministry of Commerce has put out a number at 173 tons for the month of November, Metal Focus, which is an agency which provides data and collects data from 9 countries, also is a source of data for World Gold Council, has put that number to 136. So these are the numbers that the industry still is debating on. But even with 136, we are pretty much on the higher side.
All right, Manisha, many thanks. That is the take as far as the surge in gold imports is concerned. Now, a day of blockbuster listings on the Lal Street. All 3 companies gained anywhere between 40 to 90% on their debut. MobiKwik was the star of the day. The fintech company shares listed at a 57% premium, ending the day with gains of 89%. This makes it the 6th best listing of the year. Vishal Megamart debuted at a 33% premium, ending the day with gains of 44%. The public issue, which was entirely an offer for sale, was subscribed over 27 times during the bidding process. And the third company, Sai Life Sciences, listed at an 18% premium on the Lal Street. It ended the day with gains of 39%. The three new listings now command a market cap of 70,000 crore rupees. And staying with IPOs, the three listings today are a testament to what has been a record-breaking month for the IPO market. 15 companies have raised close to 25,000 crore rupees so far this month, and 8 IPOs are on track to hit the markets before the end of the year. Now, if these 8 are successful, the total fundraising this month alone will cross 31,000 crore rupees. That's miles ahead of the previous record in August this year, when 17,000 crore rupees were raised through 10 IPOs. When it comes to the number of IPOs also, December has so far seen the highest issuances since February of 2007, when 18 companies went in for the primary market issuance. However, the amount raised through these 18 IPOs stood at just a little over 4,500 crore rupees. Now, if the 8 IPOs in the pipeline fructify before the year ends, December will set a record in this metric as well. So it's buzzing on IPO Street. And as 2024 draws to a close, what are the top trends that will shape 2025? Well, catch a special CNBC TV 18 Market Town Hall at 10:30 p.m. as we go trend spotting with the top venture capitalists to find out where the smart money will move in the new year. Now, the government is considering the steel industry's request to raise import duty to as much as 25%. Sources say the Director General of Trade Remedies is yet to draw up a plan for the Finance Ministry's approval, but also assure us that interest of both the steel producers and consumers will be balanced. Abhimanyu is standing by with the details. Abhimanyu, industry on record asking for a duty hike, saying that a safeguard duty of 25% at least is needed. Where are we on this proposal?
Sources have told CNBC TV 18 that the government is sympathetic to the concerns raised by the local steel industry, and any final decision would be taken in favor of the interests of the local steel industry, as well as it is going to balance the interests of other downstream players and end users of steel to ensure that steel continues to remain affordable for end users in the country. Also, government sources have indicated that any duty, in case it's levied, would only be levied on the grades of steel which are already being produced in India, and the incidence of any such duty is not meant to choke the supply of any grade of steel or product which is not produced in India and continues to be imported by several industries. It remains to be seen how early a decision would be taken, since the quasi-judicial process of the Directorate General of Trade Remedies is underway, in which several aspects, including production imbalance and the loss of industry, would be considered before a final decision is arrived at on whether a safeguard duty is to be imposed or not.
Abhimanyu, many thanks. And speaking of metal, sources tell us that the Karnataka government may be looking at increasing the duty on iron ore. The draft to increase the duty on iron ore has likely been circulated. The Karnataka government is seeking to collect over 10,000 crore rupees in iron ore duty this year. Remember, the Apex Court had approved states to collect mining tax retrospectively from 2005, shares of NMDC declining 35% as 35%. Shares of NMDC declined today as 35% of its iron ore comes from Karnataka. Government-run helicopter operator Pavan Hans has received an order from ONGC to supply 4 Dhruva NG helicopters. The 4 new helicopters made by Hindustan Aeronautics will be deployed at ONGC's offshore operations. The contract is valued at over 2,000 crore rupees for a period of 10 years. Remember, ONGC owns 49% stake in Pavan Hans, while the remaining is held by the government. VA Tech Warburg tanked 17% in trade today on the back of its 2,700 crore rupee desalination order from the Saudi Arabian government being scrapped. However, the stock recouped its losses in the course of the day. The order accounted for 18.5% of the company's 14,600 crore rupee order book as of September. This is the highest in the Chennai-based company's history. The VA Tech Warburg stock has had a stellar run this year, with its share price multiplying more than threefold. In fact, it hit a 52-week high on the 9th of December. In the auto space, vehicle registrations are down 19% in December so far, according to data available on the government's Vahan portal. Two-wheelers are the worst hit, with sales down 24%, but electric and CNG vehicles are seeing an increase in registrations in the first 17 days of this month. Financial services firm UBS has said that auto players like Hero and Bajaj are likely to see a further decline of 15% in retail sales and expect electric vehicles to continue to see traction. Two of Japan's biggest car makers and longtime rivals, Honda and Nissan, are exploring a merger. Both companies have confirmed that talks are underway over a potential deal. Nissan and Honda are struggling with the shift to electric mobility, and a bigger entity, the hope is, can compete with larger rivals.
Nissan and Honda are planning an alliance. A Reuters source says the two firms are in talks to establish a joint holding company. That would allow them to share more resources as competition heats up in the auto industry. Nissan shares surged on the news, jumping more than 20% in early trade on Wednesday. Honda didn't fare so well, however, sliding around 3%. The talks were first reported by the Nikkei newspaper. An alliance would allow two of Japan's biggest automakers to cooperate over technology as the shift to electric vehicles reshapes the industry. It wasn't immediately clear whether a full union was the ultimate plan, though the Nikkei reports that merger talks were underway. On Tuesday, the two firms released identical statements saying that no merger had been announced, but they admitted to exploring various possibilities for future collaboration. Over the past year, an EV price war launched by Tesla and Chinese rival BYD has made it harder for other firms to make money on the zero-emission vehicles. The industry has also faced stalling demand for electric cars in the US and Europe, and Japan's big exporters all now face the looming prospect of sweeping tariffs under a new Trump administration. Any deal would be the industry's biggest since the $52 billion merger of Fiat Chrysler and PSA in 2021. Honda and Nissan have already deepened ties, agreeing earlier to work together on batteries and other technology. Nissan may be more in need of a helping hand, after saying last month that half-year earnings were down over 90%. Its market capitalization is about $10 billion after Wednesday's surge, or less than a quarter of Honda's.
Well, that could potentially be the big global merger there between Honda and Nissan. Now, Amazon.com NV Investment Holdings, an Amazon subsidiary, is likely to have sold its entire 4% stake in Shoppers Stop in a big block deal. The deal was worth around 280 crore rupees. A clutch of FIIs and DIIs were the likely buyers. The Shoppers stock ended the day 1.5% higher. Zing, a 10-minute food delivery app, has launched in Gurugram. The app is backed by marquee investors like Azhar Iqbal, the founder of InShops and one of the judges of the popular TV series Shark Tank India. Zepto and Blinkit currently dominate the 10-minute food delivery market, so another player coming in. Now, the Supreme Court has settled a 15-year-old dispute on taxation of coconut oil. The court has ruled that coconut oil sold in small packages will be classified as edible oil and subjected to a 5% GST. Ashmit joins us now. Ashmit, the Supreme Court finally settling what has been a sticky issue for decades.
Well, it's taken the top court 15 years to decide, but finally we do have a decision from the apex court on that interesting question of whether or not coconut oil should be classified as a hair oil or an edible oil. Now, all of us at some point in our life have seen a coconut oil bottle in our homes, but on the back of that bottle are imprinted the words edible oil. That's been done by the manufacturer for very specific tax purposes. Now, what is that? Now, let's bear in mind that edible oil attracts a lower GST rate of 5% as compared to hair oil, which attracts a higher GST rate of 18%. There you have it, a tax arbitrage of 13%, and that's at the heart of this entire debate, this entire discussion. The industry has been batting for classification as edible oil, and by virtue of that asking for a 5% GST rate. The industry, the tax department has been batting for classification as a hair oil and thereby asking for a GST levy of 18%. This debate has gone on through the 90s. We had a CESTAT decision in 2009. The issue then came here before the apex court, was argued at length across 15 years, and finally the Supreme Court has given an answer and has held unequivocally that as far as coconut oil is concerned, irrespective of what shape and form it may be packaged in, small or big, it can be classified as an edible oil, and with that making the product eligible for a lower GST rate of 5%. Again, a huge relief coming in for manufacturers such as Marico, such as Godrej, and with that the focus now shifts to the GST Council to see whether or not to choose to respond by tweaking the rates coming after the apex court judgment.
Well, clearly a very sticky issue for me. This really is the story of the day. Now, India's tourism and hospitality industry can create 61 lakh new jobs by 2034. That's according to a white paper released by industry body CII and EY. The report projects spending to more than double in the next decade. The sector currently accounts for 8% of all employment in the country. Now, the industry has called on the government to form a task force to standardize skills and training.
My belief is that as far as tourism is concerned, this is going to be India's, not only India's decade, this is going to be India's century. It is going to be India's decade and India's century because we are the only country in the world which is actually making 8 airports and 3 metros every single year. We are the only country which is doing 30 kilometers of roads and about 12 kilometers of train connectivity every day. There's no country in the world which is doing this.
The center is lagging behind. My personal opinion is even the CII chapter is called Tourism and Hospitality. The Tourism and Hospitality Association's apex body is called Faith. But I think the time has come that we should bring the three together. Tourism, hospitality and civil aviation. Because the problem is when we talk tourism, we just get lost in domestic and foreign tourism or inbound travel. But there is far more. The jobs are also created. Maximum multiplicator is hospitality. And if civil aviation doesn't work, which he alluded to, with Air India, Indigo, etc., together with this sector, we will not make the kind of progress. So it's not this or that. It is center and state.
Well, the roadmap for India's tourism business. Coming up next on India Business Hour, with elections looming, Arvind Kejriwal promises free healthcare for every Delhi resident above the age of 60. That and more when we return. And catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. US President-elect Donald Trump has threatened to impose retaliatory tariffs on countries like India and Brazil. Trump said US will reciprocate with higher tariffs on countries that do the same for American products. Trump said, and I quote, "If India charges us 100%, do we charge them nothing for the same? You know, they send in a bicycle and we send them a bicycle. They charge us 100 and 200. India charges a lot. Brazil charges a lot. If they want to charge us, that's fine, but we're going to charge them the same thing." End of quote. More international news. Israel airstrikes have killed at least 38 people in Gaza in the last 24 hours. The death toll in Palestine has already crossed 45,000. A hospital in northern Gaza has come under attack once again. In central and southern Gaza, tents in what were supposed to be safe zones came under fire that killed at least 20 people. Russia claims to have arrested an Uzbek national suspected to be involved in the killing of a top general in Moscow yesterday. Russia alleges Ukrainian security forces recruited the 29-year-old to carry out the bomb attack. Uproar in Parliament as opposition protests Home Minister Amit Shah's remarks on Bhimrao Ambedkar and called for his resignation. Prime Minister Modi hitting back, accusing the Congress of disrespecting Ambedkar, who served as the chairman of the committee that drafted the Indian Constitution in 1949. Home Minister Amit Shah accused the Congress of twisting his statements.
हम वो उस वक्त खामोश बैठे और उसके बाद में जब आज शुरू होता ये सवाल हम उठाने के लिए तैयार हो गए। आज आपको मालूम है सुबह भी हम पार्टी के सभी पार्टी के लोग एक होकर जो बाबा साहब का अपमान शाह ने किया है वो गलत है, इसीलिए वो मैं आई डिमांड हिज रेसिग्नेशन।
चिर परिचित अपनी पुरानी नीति पर कांग्रेस आई है और उन्होंने मेरे बयान को तोड़ मरोड़ कर आधा ही दिखाकर जनता के सामने रखना और भ्रांति फैलाने का प्रयास किया है। कृपया मेरा पूरा बयान आप सभी लोग जनता तक पहुंचाइए तो दूध का दूध और पानी का पानी हो जाएगा। मैं उस पार्टी से आता हूं, उस संस्कृति से आता हूं जो स्वप्न में भी बाबा साहब के विचारों का या बाबा साहब के स्वयं का अपमान नहीं कर सकते।
Arvind Kejriwal has promised free healthcare for every Delhi resident above the age of 60 if the Aam Aadmi Party retains power after the upcoming assembly elections. In a press conference, the former chief minister said the AAP government will pick up the tab irrespective of whether the treatment was availed at a private or a government hospital, adding that party workers will go door to door to register senior citizens for the Sanjeevani scheme in the next few days.
जब लक्ष्मण मूर्छित हुए थे तो हनुमान जी उनके लिए संजीवनी बूटी लेके आए थे। तो आज दिल्ली के बुजुर्गों के लिए मैं संजीवनी योजना का ऐलान करने जा रहा हूं। कि 60 साल से ऊपर के हमारे जितने बुजुर्ग हैं उन बुजुर्गों का पूरा इलाज फ्री करवाया जाएगा। इसकी चुनाव के बाद हम योजना लेके आएंगे, योजना पारित करेंगे। वो चाहे सरकारी अस्पताल में इलाज कराना चाहें, चाहे प्राइवेट अस्पताल में इलाज कराना चाहें, उनका पूरा इलाज फ्री कराया जाएगा।
Arvind Kejriwal on the campaign trail. A Delhi court has granted 7 days of interim bail to former JNU student Omar Khalid to attend a cousin's wedding. Khalid, along with others, is facing charges of a pre-planned conspiracy to cause riots in northeast Delhi in February 2020. As for the bail conditions, Khalid should only meet his family members and friends and not use social media. Elon Musk has dismissed allegations that Starlink satellite technology was being misused in India. The allegations came after a device bearing the firm's logo was recovered during a security operation in crisis-hit Manipur, with allegations that militants were using the device. Responding to these claims on social media, Musk said, and I quote, "Starlink satellite beams are turned off over India and were never on in the first place," end of quote. And before we wrap, Indian spinner Ravichandra Ashwin retires from international cricket with immediate effect after the third test against Australia ended in a draw. With 537 test wickets, Ashwin is India's second highest wicket taker after Anil Kumble. He was also a part of the 2011 World Cup and the 2013 Champions Trophy, both winning teams.
I do feel there's a bit of punch left in me as a cricketer, but I would like to expose and probably showcase that in club level cricket, but this will be the last day, and I've had a lot of fun. I must say I've created a lot of memories alongside Rohit and several of my other teammates, even though I've lost some of them over the last few years. We are the last bunch of OGs, if we can say that, left out in the dressing room, and I would be marking this as my date of having played at this level.
Well, it's been quite a journey there for Ashwin. And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned. The news will continue right here on CNBC TV 18. Thanks for watching.